welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful, Earlene. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. And I wanted our viewers to also gain from your experience shares. So before we get started, Earlene, for those of our viewers who may not be as familiar with you as I am, would you please introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about your background?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a pleasure to be part of your conversation today. So I work for a company, Icon, which is a clinical trial organization, and lead their market access team in the commercialization division. As part of that, they have a market research and insights team, which I have led for 10 years. And that's really my background, is coming up through market research. And first in general industry, but I've been in the pharmaceutical side of that market research for about 10 years. So really, in-depth understanding of how commercialization of pharmaceutical products happen, how we gain access to them, and more importantly, what kind of information, data, and research that can support bringing those kinds of products to the marketplace.
Thank you, Earlene. And I wanted to share with our viewers, given your rich background and given the expertise you bring to the table, Earlene, is also why I was really keen on having you on the show, especially given the last few years with the pandemic. I mean, all businesses are challenged with better understanding their customer journeys. And particularly in the pharma world, especially given some of the companies that we work with as well, I feel that the game has changed quite a lot. There is a lot more emphasis in really understanding patient journeys, in understanding journeys of different stakeholders that are involved. So I'm really excited about today's discussion because I know that is the world you live in as well.
Yes, it is, and the journey, the customer journey, certainly has changed on a lot of different fronts. And in terms of what we work at, obviously our customers are the pharmaceutical manufacturers, and their journey that they have with us is all about us helping them understand their customers and how to engage with them, and in particular on that commercialization side. So their engagement and their journey with health plans, PBMs, customers that we wouldn't think about as individuals involved in that. But those become really critical in how they engage with them. What's that process and to get patients access to the medications. And the pandemic definitely had a significant impact on that sort of approach and the way they engaged them. And so part of our work has been really to help the pharmaceutical manufacturers understand in the kind of no contact world, how do you continue to be able to support physicians and payers with information, get your products to where they're accessible to patients, and then how do you support patients in that journey so they have access and programs and whatever they need to be able to get that treatment. So it's a pretty complex dynamic, and how to reach them in that new world has been an interesting shift. We get things like telemedicine for patients, and we get things like how do we have pharmaceutical contact representatives contact physicians and payers when you can't go to their offices. So a lot of shifts in there. And even as we're returning to a normal world, the advancement of some of those activities still persists and will now be part of the regular execution of your customer and your patient journey, as we are bringing products to market and making sure that patients can have access to treatments that they need.
Yes. This is fascinating indeed, because to put it in the journey vernacular for some of our viewers that are not in the pharma world, this is almost like, on one hand, you're challenged with better understanding B2B, business to business journeys. And at the same time, there's also a business to consumer component, that's inbuilt. So it's truly fascinating. I want to dive in deeper over there, Earlene, with you. But before I go there, I want to ask you, in your present role, given the exciting world that you're in engaging with all these stakeholders, both internal and external, what is it that your senior management, what do they rely on you for the most? You know, when they come to you and say, "Hey, great job, Earlene," what are they referring to?
That is a great question. And as I mentioned, Icon is their core competency is clinical trial management and execution. That's their core competency. But they're really their value that drives them is bringing medications to patients that need them, and that is from molecule to market. Where I sit is in the commercialization side. So once the clinical trial is complete, how do we get products through regulatory approval and then to the pharmacy, right? On formularies and accessible for whatever disease state we're talking about. And so what the CEO would say to me if he is wanting to express that I've done a good job would be thank you and well done for helping our clients, our customers get their product positioned so that any patient anywhere can get a script for that product. So that's really what my role is to help get those drugs kind of on formularies, on prescribing lists, reimbursed by health plans or other organizations so that physicians can freely write those prescriptions and patients can freely fill those prescriptions for medications that they really need.
You know, that's I really love the way, Earlene, you've articulated it so well, because I can almost visualize that kind of a conversation or a dialogue happening, and for what the organization is counting on you for. Let's dive in a little deeper into this. So, while you've put it quite simply, I know that the mission to get that done is a complex task by itself, which has multiple stakeholders involved. Mm-hmm. So in your everyday life, Earlene, when you are tasked with fulfilling this mission that the organization is counting on you for, how do you go about it in terms of getting buy-in from your internal stakeholders, helping them see priorities the way you see them? Can you share any experiences, or can you help our viewers get a deeper peek into your professional life?
So I'll do my best. From where I sit, generally with internal stakeholders, we are all working towards the same goal in the end. And the folks that I work with, right? I work with people who are focused on patient outcomes and people in the health economics area. And then I'm in the market access and commercialization side. And really, we're all working towards the same thing. And our area of focus or purview are kind of aligned across the timeline of decision points, if you will, that pharmaceutical makes, or when certain activity or actions happen to getting a product to market. So, we're really in lockstep on how that happens. And most of the time, it's not really about getting buy-in across my colleagues and other stakeholders internally. It's really about coordination of what information exchanges and how do we move clients forward. And that's really the easy part. Sometimes where we run into issues is when we're working with our clients, it's getting sort of helping them get buy-in with their internal stakeholders about where are the important decision points and when do we need to have interventions, or what strategies are going to best identify the opportunities, or the key patient populations that you really need to target. Are there need areas that you need to focus in? That's a little more of a complication. But again, it's really reminding ourselves and also our clients, that the purpose, what's the end goal, and that's almost always easy for that buy-in, because we're all in this for the same purpose, and that is really getting drugs to the patient. It's just within varying organizational structures you have at pharmaceutical organizations, what's the process that you work internally to keep them focused on that goal and everybody working towards the same kind of goal. And so part of our customer journey with them is really trying to understand their process and where those decision points fall for them, and then equipping them with data and information, strategy, and sometimes even tactics to execute against that strategy, to help them kind of work through what those decision points are and move towards that end goal.
Thank you, Earlene. Thank you for sharing that. This is something I just want to highlight for our viewers, because what you just said, I feel is gold. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times in our business, especially in guiding, large organizations like yours through these complex customer journeys, a lot of times what happens is there are both internal and external stakeholders that are involved. And sometimes there are conflicting priorities that come into play. And a lot of times I've noticed that some of our clients sometimes struggle with how do we overcome this. And I think what you've laid out is the solution for it, which is, at the end of the day, we as research experts need to guide our clients on what is the end goal that we're all trying to achieve. In our practice, Earlene, what we do is we talk more about impact. What is the business impact that this project is setting out to achieve? And that becomes sort of the North Star. That's the guiding light. Everything else is nice to know, but that is the goal. And in fact, since this is business, what we encourage our clients to do is tie the business impact to a specific financial impact as well. Because as you know, Earlene, as researchers, we get excited about the insights and the storytelling and all of that fun stuff. And that works really well with the tactical teams, with marketing, with ops, with distribution, with sales. But when you get to the C-suite, when you get to the executive level, they dig all those insights as well. But at the end of the day, what has been my experience is they're also concerned about, well, how do we move the needle? What you're recommending, if we make all these improvements, what am I going to see change in the business? And how do you measure it? How will I justify this investment? So, that's why I wanted to spend a minute just talking about what you shared, because I think it's very valuable if we are able to remind people of the goal, the ultimate goal. Because, a lot of times what may also happen is when we start reminding people about the business goal and the business impact, like you said, realization may dawn that maybe this project will not help us get to that goal. And so every project is then not needed. So there's also that fine line where, as researchers, we have to guide our clients on what is the best way to get to that business goal and that financial impact, and does this project get us over there? So I really loved what you said about reminding people about why we're doing this, because I think that's very valuable. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And you raise a great point about competing priorities. What's the end point, right? In pharma, they always talk about outcomes in terms of their clinical trials, their products. But the bottom line is, the outcome of any activity, research in particular, on what their bottom line is, always has to be a consideration. And it's easy to talk about bringing clients along and reminding them of what the purpose is. But the issue of competing priorities, it does come up and it has to be dealt with. And with pharmaceutical products, it can be an issue because a lot of times when we're developing new products, there may be a pipeline of products that a company, a manufacturer has that could be impacted. So we have to take that into consideration as part of that journey, and where there are decision points too sometimes. So it gets complicated really fast on a lot of different levels. But it's really, as you said, kind of helping our clients, guiding them as they're going through that process, that journey themselves, to kind of keep their eye on what that end goal is, what's the outcome, and where does their organization as a whole need to go, not just as individuals.
Right, right. Yes, I completely concur with you, Earlene. So, something we like to do on the show, Earlene, is have our guests talk about their experiences, especially when it comes to customer journey work. That is something that we believe can really help any organization, anyone really for that matter, better understand their customers, is by truly walking in their shoes, by understanding their journeys, their trigger points, their pain points. And I know you have a ton of experience in this domain. So I wanted to invite you to talk about, any journey projects that you feel comfortable talking about. Please tell our viewers what you did, how you thought about, leveraging customer journey work in this, what were the challenges in front of you, and how it all came about.
So that's a great question. And I'd like to talk about kind of customer journey work from two perspectives. One, of course, is from the perspective of our customers. When we do customer journey work internally for ourselves, it's important to try and understand where those decision points are. And on the commercialization side, a lot of times we start with that where a product has passed their FDA or regulatory approval, and they're preparing to come to market. So traditionally, we've started with at that point where how do we prepare them for a product launch? What do they need kind of from that moment, right? When they've got that approval, what are all the activities they have to line up? What are their decision points? And the materials that they need to actually kind of execute that. And traditionally, that's how we've looked at that journey for that customer, and built out some really good process and alternatives for different types of therapeutic areas for them to go through, and then practice it to see how it works, right? So we've had a lot of years of experience doing that, and it's worked really well. I think one of the issues that we have faced, and sometimes in the past overlooked, is that there are decisions made earlier in the product development cycle that have this downstream impact on kind of what happens, what clients need to do as part of that journey, and sometimes limits or creates barriers for where they want to go in that journey that we just didn't recognize in the past. Sort of having come to that realization, what we found is we now need to kind of work with our clients to better understand, how we could engage with them and help them engage with their clients kind of earlier in that product development kind of life cycle, that's going to have an impact that yields more positive results for them once they hit where our traditional journey with them. And that's kind of where we are at with how we understand their journey and how we're helping our customers understand their journey
Right.
at this point. The piece of that then that kind of is adjacent to that is our customer's journey, our customer's journey, because the piece of that sort of is missing is not just us engaging, helping our customers engage with us to know more and understand more, but understanding also how they can engage with some of those organized customers, payers and physicians that are important when you launch earlier, so that when they get to that launch phase, they're actually better prepared to meet their needs and prevent barriers that they will encounter, and we will encounter with them when you get there. So I think that's one of the things that we're evolving and continue to evolve in our journey with our customers and their journey with their customers. So it could, because we can't have a one without tackling both, just by the nature of the work that we do.
That's an excellent experience shared, Earlene, and thank you for sharing that. I want to unpack this a little bit for our viewers, especially those who may not be at your level of expertise with customer journey work. And I love what you were talking about, how there are almost these overlapping journeys, within a customer journey. I think the first point that I want our viewers to understand is, which I think is how you think as well, which is, when we're out there to understand the customer's journey, one of the foundation principles of that is accepting and respecting the fact that the customer is not part of our business journey. We are part of their journey. And that is so critical, because in a lot of organizations, early in what I've seen, and you may have witnessed this as well, a lot of times decisions get made with the sense that we know our customers. We don't really need to spend time in researching them. We've been in the business for a while, and we can just take our decisions from the gut. And what I say to those clients is, there is no proxy for the voice of the customer. If we don't spend our time in better understanding the customer's journey, what happens is then you lose sight of this fact that the customer, that we are part of their journey. And this causes a lot of friction points and pain points to go untended. And when that happens, the customer will keep moving through the different stages of their journey. But if you are unable to remove those obstacles or those pain points, then the customer will just move on to the next stage holding someone else's hand. And that really connected with me when you were talking about your experiences and your journeys, where there are decisions that get taken early on, but they have an impact later on. And that is also another example of how well some of these journey stages are connected to each other. Sometimes some journeys are linear, and sometimes they're all cyclical, where decisions made in one stage have a ripple effect through, future stages. And so I wanted our viewers to just understand that there can be complexities involved, but at the same time, like you said, this also becomes, I look at it as the gift that keeps on giving. Because as you start unraveling, and it's like peeling the onion, right? You start at the top, at the macro level, and then you see these underlying journeys, like in your case, where there are different departments, different stakeholders, and then even within those, there are different personas that are involved. And as you start layering it down, going it down to that level, then you're truly walking in their shoes, in the customer's shoes. And there is no surprise that companies, that organizations that spend their time in better understanding their customer journeys, they are the market leaders, in that space, and the rest are then just left competing on price.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that even when we're talking about pharmaceutical products, there's a lot that is involved there. And the customers, the decision-making process a purchase, it can get very complicated, but at its core, it's a series of customer journeys that might be interrelated, and you have to understand your customer. In the case of pharmaceutical, you might have 4 or 5 different types of customers that make a single decision, to purchase a pharmaceutical, drug, but they're all customers that you have to know and understand. And if you fall into what I'll call the academic syndrome, you forget that everybody can be different, and that there is information that you don't have, and you think you know it all. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot. That's the only way I can describe it, because things are going to happen and people are going to react differently. And if you aren't on top of understanding your customer, there's going to be somebody waiting in the wings to take your place. So it's important, even if your product is a medication that is important to your patients. If you can't get it on formularies, if you can't get it reimbursed, they're not going to have the access they need, and there's going to be another manufacturer who's going to step in and fill that void. So, wherever you are in that continuum of customer journeys, whether you're at where we are, where our customers are the pharmaceutical manufacturers, or you're the manufacturer where your customers are the health plans and the patients and the physicians, you have to be aware of just what the needs are for your customers for that product, and where you can fill that need.
That's wonderful, Earlene. Final 2 questions for you. A lot of times I get asked the question as well in my practice on, I get it, but what are the benefits of customer journey work? How will this help me move the needle? I'm curious to know, in the work that you've done, are there any, tangible benefits that you've seen that the business gained as a result of your work, as a result of the journey work that you completed?
So, sure. If I look for specific examples, we work with manufacturers to understand what they need, how we can help them kind of understand what the value is that their product has, what's that value proposition, and then how do we communicate that to their customers, so that the value is understood, and that they can get proper placement and access to the patients that they need. The whole idea is that the patients have access to that drug and it's utilized, right, in an appropriate way that brings relief or curative value to the patients that need it. And that journey that we have with that customer, and that journey that we facilitate between our customer and their stakeholders, the health plans, the patients, the physicians, and sometimes sites of administration, sites of care as well. As I think the one that becomes most clear in my mind is projects we did for a manufacturer who was bringing a novel treatment for postpartum depression. And in their journey, they really had to understand kind of what the journey of that disease was for patients, in addition to how they would seek treatment and how we could support that treatment-seeking behavior. And the reason why it stands out to me is because that is a disease, an illness that has a lot of emotion and social impact to it. A lot of stigma historically has been associated with that. So just getting patients to try and seek diagnosis, let alone behavior, is a huge journey that patients have to undergo. So the manufacturer needs to support that journey, had to support that journey and really build support systems in and partner with advocacy groups and other kinds of agencies to help build support and kind of fully develop a journey for seeking that kind of diagnosis and then treatment in ways that would be easy for a patient to traverse and not as socially detrimental, for lack of a better word. And so I think that just highlights the needs in my eyes of a pharmaceutical manufacturer, but any organization that, for them to kind of meet their goals and fulfill their journey, it's important and critical to think about, that patient journey and start beyond taking their drug, right? But what is the whole pathway of getting there and helping through any kinds of barriers? And so I think that was one of the ideal examples, because it just highlights that need for having that understanding and being able to kind of combat barriers and put yourself in their shoes, because it's not just as easy as going to the physician and asking for a prescription, or going to a physician and say, I don't feel like myself, because there are things that we might not think about on the social and emotional level, in this case, that also has to be part of that consideration of their patient journey.
That's one of the best examples I've ever heard, Earlene, and I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because, talk about not just making a difference, but talk about having a clearly defined business goal or a business impact objective, for a project like this, right? And I don't think anyone will have any doubts that when a pharmaceutical company, in this case, when they embark on a journey project with a goal like what you've just outlined, I mean, the ROI, the financial impact almost becomes secondary. Now we're getting towards the greater good of, we really need to do this, for this, if we are successful, now we're no longer worried about adoption and ROI and all those things. Now it's truly helping the patient, in helping them get relief from this ailment. This example actually reminds me of something we did for one of our dear clients. They are in the hearing aid business, and they were in a similar predicament where they wanted to better understand the journey, because, as just like in the pharma world, even in the hearing health world, there's a lot of stigma associated. And to better understand that patient's journey, to make sure that, they are empowered to get the relief that they're needing, and to get it sooner, and to know where to get it and how to get it and how to go about it. This was so similar. And that, what you just said, reminded me of that example, because it's similar. Because when you get to work on projects like that, then it's like, we need to make this happen. We really need this to succeed. Yes, we do a lot of projects where we help clients sell millions and millions and billions of dollars of product, especially in the CPG world. But when it comes to health related issues, then it's almost like now we're feeding our souls as well. And I think that's where the journey work comes in very, very helpful. So I really appreciate you mentioning this. I know we're almost at the end of our time, but I wanted to ask you one final question. Just coming to know you the way I do, where I know you are very passionate about your work, and you do a lot of great work as well. Since hindsight is always 2020, reflecting on some of these past journey projects, or if you had to do a similar engagement again in the future, is there anything that you would do different, or anything you would do to improve the outcome for your organization?
That's a great question. There's always room for improvement, right? And I think I talked earlier about trying to understand our client's journey kind of earlier in the product development life cycle, and trying to help them engage with some of those organized clients to think about kind of how you would bring to market, although that's not quite the way I would put it, but how to think about kind of market access, commercialization, potential problems earlier in the life cycle. One of the things with clinical trials and product development is it's very scientific early on in phase 3 trials, when you're starting with things that are really involving patients, and where you're really digging into what is the appropriate use, what are the outcomes for a product. And that's how it should be. But in addition to that, if we can think also about what is it going to need to bring this to market? Are there any nuances to the clinical trials that's going to help us understand what that value prop is going to be, or help us understand, what are the key outcomes or triggers that, health plans might focus on to bring something, put something as accessible, or where are physicians really going to evaluate that? Because sometimes that end of the decision tree, as we're thinking about product access, focus on different things than what we do as scientists in scientific evaluation in the clinical trials, and kind of trying to bring those two pieces together a little earlier in that development life cycle, and understanding our customer's journey and helping them understand their customer's journey, beginning at a little earlier stage as we're thinking about those commercialization decisions, because the commercialization decisions is where true access to those medications come for patients at large. And I think as I try and do things differently, try and make a bigger impact for myself and my organization, that's sort of where I keep getting pulled.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your experience shares, Earlene. I really appreciated your commentary, and I'm sure our viewers will also get a lot of gold in your experience shares. So thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you.